welcome back to Radio Wasteland, the best in paranormal talk radio. I'm your host, Chauncey Haworth. This is my co-host, Kara Kittrick. Kara, do you
Hello.
have any news for us today?
Yes, I do. So Dominion Voting Systems, which makes much of the voting software used in the 2020 election, has sued the CEO of MyPillow Inc., Mike Lindell, for spreading conspiracy theories about election fraud. They are alleging $1.2 billion, with a B, dollars in damages. Dominion has also filed similar suits against conservative pundit Sidney Powell and ex-Trump attorney Sidney Powell and current Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani, saying, quote, Powell's wild accusations are demonstrably false. Facebook has blocked all news content in Australia as the AU government verges on passing laws that would require Facebook to pay news publishers to put links on their platform, including publishers sharing links to their own sites or users sharing links to those sites. Google, another company that would be affected by the law, elected to comply instead, making a news showcase, which they would pay news publishers to join. And lastly, almost 3,000 pages of formally classified documents are now available online, detailing CIA knowledge of UFO sightings. These documents were released as part of a Freedom of Information Act request from the head of a popular UFO site called the Black Vault. This comes after the late December COVID relief bill, which included a provision requiring the disclosure of all UFO-related documents to various congressional committees by the United States intelligence agencies. Back to you, Chauncey.
All right. I think it's pretty funny that this Dominion voting place is going after all these people.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's, I guess it is libel or slander, or I don't know which when it comes to the legal term, but I suppose they are attacking their entire business and future,
Oh, absolutely. Red states, the choice of what voting software to use is district by district. So red states are now just not going to use Dominion, basically. Right. And blue states, they might, but they've got a way. Is it even worth it to deal with all the crap we're going to get just to use this one provider when we could just go to someone else? So having a reputation, even if the reputation is totally false, of being part of the Illuminati or whatever, will ruin your business if enough people believe it.
Yeah, but you can't get blood from a turnip. So how do you sue Rudy Giuliani for $1 billion? It's
they were suing. That was a separate suit. The $1 billion suit was the MyPillow guy.
And they also went after Giuliani for a similar.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. It's separate suits. The first suit was the suit with Giuliani, and the suit with Sidney Powell. Those were not $1 billion suits. The $1 billion suit was the one where they're basically suing another CEO and are basically going after his company because they're saying, this guy spread falsehoods in order to cash in, because this guy did promotions.
Right.
I think you could get a free pillow or something with a code QAnon or Stop the Steal or something like that. He went on a bunch of talk shows and did promotions. And
this guy, man, he is just nutty. It's
not a real good idea, honestly, if you're running, because he had to have thought that they would do something like this.
Yeah, and plus he employs hundreds of Michiganians. It's
right.
It's I try to keep my paranormal stuff separate of my business, just because I got a family depending on my business. I don't need to hawk it all just to, I don't know. It's just, even if you think you're doing the most American thing ever, you still have hundreds of people in your state that you're taking care of,
Well, I could understand it if he really believed it, and I think, maybe he does. It's just that I am judging him for believing it. That's the part I'm judging him for, not his subsequent actions.
Well, I mean, is it going to be called their pillow now if they get it? Dominion pillow. It's our pillow. It's not my pillow.
I don't know what makes these pillows special. I guess there's like some kind of special foam in them or something. I'm not up on
juice.
Yeah, Michigan juice.
Yeah. And then what's your take on Facebook blocking this thing? You think that's okay? Or, I'm a believer that the problem with the world is people are stupid, not that Facebook posts this stuff.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I'm actually on Facebook's side on this one, because basically what's happening here is news publishers everywhere are saying, basically, I'm not even sure exactly what their logic is, but they're somehow alleging that like Facebook is cutting into their business, and so what they want basically is some money whenever anyone posts like an article from the Australian equivalent of the New York Times on Facebook. Like, that's what they want. So they're basically just shaking down Facebook for money because traditional media outlets are failing, which is not a good thing. I mean, traditional journalism.
Yeah, but who's getting the money? Okay, so the newspaper people want the money from Facebook.
Right. Yeah. So it's very nonsensical in my opinion. Like, why on earth is Facebook just on the hook for this money? What on earth did they do that makes it so they have to pay you for you putting your stuff on the site, which you're already benefiting from because you get exposure? Like, I don't understand what their grievance is.
Me neither. And the reason why these sorts of medias are dying is because the value is no longer there in a world of the internet where a lot of people are doing this stuff for free, freemium, all sorts of things, and all of a sudden they're going to be all, well, my article that I copied from the Associated Press that I'm now sharing should have a value that it just doesn't have anymore.
Right. And I'm kind of on two minds of that, because traditional journalists do actually do a lot of work that basically can't really be replicated by like an amateur person, and they aren't getting paid for that work. So like, there is value, but no one's paying for it. Right.
I mean, it's like being a collector. I have this cup here. It's worth 10,000, but nobody will pay me more than 100. Exactly. Then it's not worth 10,000, is it? It's like,
yeah. So. It's a bad situation, but it's not Facebook's fault. That's my
Yeah. I'm a little back and forth on those because I do feel that a lot of antitrust laws are broken online that need to be fixed, but I don't have a good enough understanding to put my foot down. I don't think.
Yeah, let me be clear. Lots of things are Facebook's fault.
Oh yeah, no.
Facebook, all these social media companies are horrible, but in this particular instance, honestly, they're doing the right thing.
And then, me, I like UFOs. I like the CIA. I mean, why would we do this and not like this stuff? But really, I don't think that that's the true story here. I think the true story here is something that's been pissing me off for a couple of months. And that is, why does the release of UFO information have anything to do with COVID relief?
Oh, it doesn't. That's just how Congress works.
It pisses me off, man. It's basically, we're going to help you out in this COVID situation, but, we want to make sure that your gardeners are deported and that UFOs are declassified. None of that has anything to do with helping people make it through a pandemic. And I don't think that we should just sit back as people wrap it with a pretty bow and act like it is, because it isn't.
Well, of course it doesn't have anything to do with that, but that
pisses me off. I don't know.
Okay,
you got to burn these people to the ground. It's moments.
Absolutely. It's just funny to me that that's like the straw that breaks the camel's back here.
Yeah, I mean, just the trickery of it. I don't mind people.
Really trickery. Everyone knows these packages are basically like, this is what we're going to do this year.
I guarantee you well under 50% of the population of this country knows that goes on with lawmaking.
Yeah, okay, you're probably... Well, that's depressing.
Yeah.
God.
Wait.
I think our viewers know.
Yes, they
our
do.
listeners. Our listeners are discerning people, and they understand this.
Right, and we're all informed in our own areas. I mean, that's why the people who are informed need to stand up for the people who aren't. I mean, some of us have, encyclopedic knowledge of horror films. And it's our duty to share that knowledge with the world.
No, even if we're asking you to stop, even if we're walking away, like, I don't know you, man.
Right. Exactly.
God, it's troubling to me that anyone could ever construe me to be like even relatively informed. Because I'm an idiot. I don't know things. What are you talking about? Every time I know something and that someone else doesn't, I just get this pit in my stomach. Like, oh God, is that the bar? Is that where it is?
Yeah, I agree.
Doomed.
I agree. Bill Maher said it pretty well, though, that, because I'm one of those people, I complain about the government and how I can't keep track of all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And it's like overwhelming. And Bill Maher basically said, all you got to do is read a little. There are tons of Americans out there that can tell you Mickey Mantle's batting average from 1950. Who gives a crap? Yet they know nothing about their own political system. And I'm all, oh God, that's me. Not that I know baseball stats, but I know my own version of baseball stats, and I don't know enough about the government. So it did make me feel a little bit bad.
Okay. I'm going to be a little contrarian on this, though, because here's my example. A few weeks ago, I was talking to some random person, and they didn't know there were two houses of Congress. And that screwed me up, because that's terrifying to not know that. That's such a basic piece of knowledge. But then I got to thinking, like, okay, so I understand this, maybe they understand 0% of what, like, a true expert would understand, and I understand 5%.
Right.
On what decisions is that difference going to make any practical
I get you. It's all relative, because something like 24% of the population in a recent poll was able to name all three branches of the government.
Oof.
And I'm sitting here going like, oh my God, but you're right. It's all relative. Just because I can do it, maybe that puts me in the 28th percentile. And I just feel like,
and if someone rushed in and was like, life or death, Chauncey, how do we vote on this bill? You wouldn't know any better than the first person who doesn't
ask my wife.
Who was like, what's a bill? Like,
that's what I do.
Yeah.
My wife reads everything, and then we sit down and talk about it, and she tells me who I sound like I should vote for.
See, I don't even have a wife. So.
Yeah, well, I'm sure Terry would help you too.
I'm sure. Yeah,
it's going to turn out that like 32% of the country votes based on what Terry says.
I believe it. She's just fielding just texting all day with tens of millions of Americans.
All right, coming up tonight, we got Steve Bassett, and we're talking about political issues and impacts of extraterrestrial presence and the disclosure advocacy movement. A lot of big words in there, and I got to admit, I did have to do with some wrangling in order to figure out how those words fit together, but it does make sense, so come on.
And Steve Bassett's a big deal, so stick around.
It's a big deal.
Welcome to the